This commentary is dedicated to the men and women that protect us at home and afar. What is up, guys? FATEDLIME here, aka Travis, bringing you Battlefield 3. Back again with some Battlefield 3. I got it working, I got it going. And today I'm bringing you some aggressive recon with the new M417, which is a pure monster. I recommend foregrip, laser sight, and iron, or laser sight, and using the iron sights. I think I unlocked a hollow in this, but this is just some beast aggressive recon. I go 41 and 14, just constantly running and gunning. It's got amazing hip fire, it's fast, it's good shit. But today's commentary is not about the gameplay like always. This is about bringing you guys information. So what got me thinking, this is about a year almost, year anniversary almost, of a buddy I grew up with that died over in Afghanistan. I grew up with him way back, and I found out about a year ago that he was killed in action. So I was thinking about that a little bit yesterday and a little bit more tonight, and I decided I wanted to bring you guys a little quick history on the people that protect us. You know, of the three big countries, the triplets, the brothers in arms, Canada, America, and the UK. We are always, for the most part, shoulder to shoulder in every conflict that happens. And I just wanted to do a little breakdown of their history and their military forces. And I would have loved to have done all of the American military, but it is huge, and that would have been a whole 20-minute video myself. So I picked the most common and the one that I know somewhat more about than anything else, and that is the Marine Corps. So basically, the United States Marine Corps, or the USMC, is a branch of the United States Armed Forces responsible for providing power projection from the sea, using the mobility of the United States Navy to deliver combined armed task forces rapidly. It is one of 7 uniformed services of the United States, and in the civilian leadership structure of the U.S. military, the Marine Corps is a component of the United States Navy, often working closely with the U.S. naval forces for training, transportation, logistic purposes. However, in the military leadership structure of the Marine Corps, it is a separate branch. Captain Samuel Nichols formed 2 battalions of Continental Marines on the 10th of November 1775 in Philadelphia as a naval infantry. Since then, the mission of the Marine Corps has evolved with changing military doctrine and American foreign policy. The Marine Corps has served in every American armed conflict and attained prominence in the 20th century when its theories and practices of amphibious warfare proved precedent and ultimately formed the cornerstone of the Pacific Campaign in World War II. By the mid-20th century, the Marine Corps had become the dominant theorist and practitioner of amphibious warfare. Its ability to rapidly respond on short notice to expeditionary crises gives it a strong role in the implementation and execution of American foreign policies. As you can tell, I'm reading this. I had to write it all down. And as of today, or the stats I got was as of 2010, the USMC include just under 203,000 active Marines and just under 40,000 reserve Marines. It is the smallest unit of the American Armed Forces, and the United States Coast Guard. But the United States Coast Guard is smaller, about 1/5 the size of the Marine Corps, but it does not normally operate under the Department of Defense. Nonetheless, though, the Marine Corps is still larger than most significant military powers. It is larger than the active Israeli Defense Force and the active British Army. So, even though it's one of the smallest branches of American military, it's bigger than most armies out there. And speaking of small armies, move on to Canada, my homeland, and the forces on which my buddy fought for. So the Canadian Forces, which is officially the Canadian Armed Forces, are the Unified Armed Forces of Canada, which is constituted by the National Defence Act, which states The Canadian Forces are the armed forces of Her Majesty raised by Canada and consists of one service called the Canadian Armed Forces. Now, this single institution consists of sea, land, and air, and it is called which are called the Royal Canadian Navy, the Canadian Army, and the Royal Canadian Air Force, which together overseen by the Armed Forces Council, which is chaired by the Chief of the Defense Staff, and at the pinnacle of our command structure is the Commander-in-Chief, which is Queen Elizabeth, but she is represented by our Governor General. And we go on here, a little bit of history. Since 1947, the Canadian military have participated in more than 200 operations worldwide and completed 72 international operations. Canadian soldiers, sailors, and aviators came to be considered world-class professionals through conspicuous service during these conflicts and the country's integral participation in NATO. During the Cold War, First Gulf War, Kosovo War, and the United Nations peacekeeping operations such as the Suez Crisis, Golan Heights, Cyprus, Croatia, Bosnia, Afghanistan, and Libya. Also, Canada maintained an aircraft carrier from 1957 to 1970 during the Cold War, which never saw combat but participated in patrols during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Battles which are particularly notable to Canadian military history is the Battle of Vimy Ridge, the Dieppe Raid, the Battle of Ortona, the Battle of Passchendaele, the Normandy landings, the Battle for Caen, the Battle for Scheldt, the Battle of Britain, the Battle of the Atlantic, and the strategic bombings of German cities, and more recently the Battle of Medak Pocket in Croatia. At the end of the Second World War, Canada possessed the third largest navy and fourth largest air force in the world, as well as the largest volunteer army ever fielded. When conscription was brought in at the end of World War II, only 2,400 conscripts made it into World War II to fight the battle. So we didn't have the draft. It was all volunteer. And as of today, the Canadian Forces has an active military regiment of 68,250 troops and an active reserve regiment of 47,081 troops. So that gives Canada a total strength of 115,331 331 uniformed soldiers if the need arises. And that doesn't include if there's a draft. So, and next we'll go to our brothers. Well, finally, we will go to our brothers across the pond, or our cousins across the pond. The British Armed Forces. They are basically the armed forces of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, also known as Her Majesty's Armed Forces and sometimes legally as the Armed Forces of the Crown. The armed forces encompass three professional uniformed services: the Royal Navy, the British Army, and the Royal Air Force. The Commander-in-Chief of Her Majesty's Armed Forces is the British monarch, Queen Elizabeth again, to whom members of the forces swear allegiance. Under British constitutional law, the armed forces are subordinate to the Crown. However, this power is qualified by the requirement of parliamentary consent to the maintaining of maintaining of a standing army and Parliament's approval of taxation and supply of funds for the armed forces. Under the 1689 Bill of Rights, no standing army may be maintained during times of peace without the consent of Parliament, and in modern times Parliament gives the consent every 5 years by passing an Armed Forces Act. Consistent with long-standing constitutional convention, the Prime Minister holds de facto authority over the use of the armed forces. The armed forces are managed by the Defense Council the Defense Council of the Ministry of Defense, which is headed by the Secretary of State for Defense. The British Armed Forces are charged with protecting the UK, its overseas territories, and Crown dependencies, as well as promoting Britain's wider security interests and supporting international peacekeeping. They are active regular participants in NATO and other coalition operations. Britain is also party to 5 power defense arrangements. Recent operations have included Afghanistan and Iraq, the 2000 intervention in Sierra Leone, ongoing peacekeeping responsibilities in the Balkans and Cyprus, and participation in the UN-mandated no-fly zone over Libya. Overseas garrisons and facilities are maintained at Ascension Island, Belize, Brunei, Canada, Diego Garcia, the Falkland Islands, Germany, Gibraltar, Kenya, Qatar, and the sovereign base areas, which is Cyprus. The United Kingdom became the world's third recognized nuclear state in 1952, and today maintains 225 nuclear warheads, only 160 of which are operational. And as of today, or the most recent stats I found, the British Armed Forces is a professional force with a strength of 189,569 regular troops and 37,600 volunteer reservists. This gives the UK a combined strength of 227,160 personnel. In addition, there are 174,800 regular reserves from all services of the British Armed Forces. The British Armed Forces constitute the second largest military force in the European Union. So, I know it was a little drawn out, but I wanted to just give you guys a little brief of the people that protect us. So guys, thank you for joining me. This is FATEDLIME signing off. And to all you military men and women, I salute you. And hey guys, if you missed my last video, click the clip and it'll bring you right there. So until next time, FATEDLIME out.